The annual family BBQ at my parents' backyard was supposed to be fun. I watched my 10-year-old son Logan's eyes light up as Dad placed a juicy steak on my sister Amanda's daughter's plate. Then came Logan's turn. Dad tossed a charred, blackened piece of meat onto his plate. Mom laughed. "A little overcooked, but it's fine, right?" Dad chuckled. "Even a dog wouldn't eat that." Everyone erupted in laughter while Logan just stared at his plate. That burnt offering wasn't just meat. It was 30 years of history repeating itself. The laughter faded into awkward silence as Logan poked at the charred meat with his fork. My sister Amanda's daughter Emma, only 8 years old, was already happily cutting into her perfectly medium, rare steak, the juices pooling on her plate. My stomach nodded as I watched Logan's shoulders slump, ever so slightly. "Need help cutting that, buddy?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. Logan shook his head. "I'm okay, Mom." But he wasn't. I knew that look. The same one I'd worn countless times at this very table growing up. The look of a child trying not to show disappointment. I glanced around the table. My father was busy serving himself another beer. My mother was fussing over Emma, making sure she had enough potato salad. Amanda was on her phone, probably answering work emails even on a Sunday. No one seemed to notice or care about the stark difference in how the two children had been treated. "Let me see if there's another piece," I said quietly to Logan, reaching for his plate. "Rose, leave it," my father said sharply, noticing my movement. "Don't coddle the boy. He needs to toughen up. It's just a little overcooked." "It's burnt to a crisp, Dad," I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral despite the anger bubbling inside me. "It builds character," my Uncle Frank chimed in with a laugh. "Boys need to learn to take what they get without complaining. Right, Logan?" Logan nodded silently, his eyes fixed on his plate. "There's plenty of sides," my mother added dismissively. "He doesn't need to make a fuss." I felt my cheeks burning. This wasn't about the meat, this was about the pattern. The same pattern I'd endured my entire childhood. Amanda always got the best of everything. The newest clothes, the bigger bedroom, the most attention at recitals. And now, it was happening to the next generation. "I'm not very hungry anyway," Logan whispered to me. My husband Tyler would have backed me up, would have said something. But he'd been called into work for an emergency client meeting. I was outnumbered and outmaneuvered, as usual. "I'll get some more drinks," I said, needing a moment away from the table. In the kitchen, I leaned against the counter and took a deep breath. As I reached for the pitcher of lemonade, I heard my parents' voices drifting through the open window from the side patio where they must have stepped out for a moment. "So we're all set for the beach house in July?" my mother was saying. "Yes," I confirmed with Amanda yesterday, my father replied. 2 weeks in Florida will be just what we all need. Emma's going to love the dolphin excursion I booked." I froze. Florida? Beach house? This was the first I'd heard of any family vacation plans. "Should we say something to Rose?" my mother asked, her voice lower. "Why? You know how Tyler is always tied up with work. And frankly, Logan can be a handful on long trips. Amanda's family just fits better for this kind of vacation. Maybe next year." The lemonade pitcher nearly slipped from my hands. They were planning a family vacation with Amanda's family and had deliberately excluded us. I returned to the table, my hands shaking slightly as I set down the drinks. Logan was still staring at his burnt steak, while Emma chatted happily about her upcoming soccer tournament. In that moment, as I looked at my son's downturned face, something inside me shifted. The burnt meat on his plate wasn't just dinner. It was a symbol of something much bigger and much more painful. And for the first time, I wondered if I had the courage to finally address it. The drive home was quiet. Logan sat in the back seat, looking out the window as the suburban landscape rolled by. I kept glancing at him in the rearview mirror, searching for the right words. "I'm sorry about the steak, buddy," I finally said. "It's okay, Mom," Logan replied, his voice small but steady. "I'm used to it." Those 5 words hit me like a physical blow. Used to it. My 10-year-old son was already accustomed to being treated as less than his cousin, just as I had been with Amanda. History wasn't just repeating itself. It was etching itself deeper into the next generation. When we got home, Logan disappeared into his room while I sat at the kitchen table, my mind racing through a lifetime of similar incidents. Christmas mornings when Amanda's pile of presents towered over mine. High school graduation when my parents threw Amanda a massive party but took me to a dinner that ended early because they were tired. My wedding, where my mother complained about every decision while she'd hired a planner for Amanda's. I pulled out my phone and called Tyler. "Hey, how was the BBQ?" he asked after telling me about his client emergency. "The usual," I said, and then everything spilled out. The burnt steak, the laughter, the vacation plans I'd overheard. "Rose, you need to say something," Tyler said firmly. "This has gone on too long." What would I even say? "Hey, Mom and Dad, why have you always loved Amanda more?" Maybe not exactly like that, but yes. Logan is noticing now. Do you want him to grow up thinking this is normal? That he deserves less? I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of 30 years of silence. No, I don't. That night, after Logan was asleep, I went into our home office and opened a fresh document on my laptop. I titled it Patterns and began typing. Every instance I could remember of different treatment between Amanda and me. Different treatment between Logan and Emma. I worked until the early hours of the morning, years of suppressed memories flooding back. The next day, I called in sick to my freelance graphic design job and drove to my childhood home while my parents were at their golf club. I still had a key for emergencies. I wasn't sure what I was looking for, but I needed tangible proof that I wasn't imagining things. In the attic, I found boxes labeled with our names. Amanda had 3 large boxes. Rose had 1 small one. Inside Amanda's were carefully preserved art projects, certificates, even her prom dress. Mine contained a few school reports and a badly damaged stuffed animal. I took photos with my phone, documenting the difference. Then I went to my father's home office to use his printer. As I waited for the documents to print, I noticed my mother had left her email open on her iPad. I hesitated. I'd never snooped through their personal communications before, but something compelled me to look. I tapped on a folder labeled Family Finances, and an email chain between my parents and Amanda from 3 months ago appeared. Transfer of $50,000 completed for house down payment. Don't mention to Rose, you know how she gets about these things. My hands trembled as I read the exchange. 3 months ago. The exact time when Tyler and I had asked my parents if they could help us refinance our mortgage after his company went through layoffs. They'd told us money was tight due to medical bills. I forwarded the emails to myself, then carefully closed everything. By the time I left the house, I had a folder full of evidence, not just of emotional favoritism, but of financial disparities that had real consequences for my family. That night, I sat Tyler down after Logan went to bed and showed him everything I'd found. "I'm not crazy, right?" I asked, my voice shaking. "This is real." Tyler looked through the documentation, his expression growing more serious with each page. "Rose, this isn't just real, it's abusive. They've been gaslighting you for years." "I need to confront them," I said, feeling simultaneously terrified and resolved. "Not just for me anymore. For Logan." "I'll be right there with you," Tyler promised. I spent the next week carefully planning what to say, rehearsing my points, organizing my evidence. I wanted to be calm and factual, not emotional. I needed them to take me seriously. Finally, I called my parents and asked to meet for lunch at a restaurant halfway between our homes. Just the 3 of us. No Amanda, no distractions. "Is everything okay?" my mother asked, sounding concerned. "We just need to talk," I replied. "It's important." "Well, all right then. Tuesday at noon?" "Perfect," I said. Though nothing about this situation felt perfect at all. The restaurant was busy enough to provide background noise but quiet enough that we could talk privately. I arrived early, selecting a corner booth and ordering water for everyone. My folder of evidence sat beside me like a ticking bomb. My parents arrived together, looking casually curious. My mother wore her tennis outfit, suggesting this lunch was squeezed between more important activities. "Rose, darling," she said, giving me the quick double, cheek air kiss she'd adopted after her trip to Paris 5 years ago. What's this all about? You sounded so mysterious on the phone. My father simply nodded as he slid into the booth. Everything okay with Logan? Tyler? They're fine, I said, taking a deep breath. But I'm not. And I haven't been for a long time. My mother's eyebrows shot up. What on earth do you mean? I need to talk to you both about something that's been happening my entire life. The way you treat me differently than Amanda. And now, the way you treat Logan differently than Emma. My father's face immediately hardened. If this is about that overcooked steak from the barbecue, you're being ridiculous. It's not about the steak, I said, feeling my carefully rehearsed speech slipping away. Well, not just about the steak, it's about a pattern. I pulled out my folder and placed it on the table. I've documented dozens of instances where you've shown clear favoritism toward Amanda and Emma, financial support you've given her that you denied us, opportunities and attention you've provided her that I never received. My mother glanced at the folder but didn't open it. Rose, you've always been so sensitive, so quick to see slights where none exist. Really? Then explain this. I pulled out the printed email about the $50,000 house payment. My father barely glanced at it. You went through our personal correspondence? That's a violation of our privacy. Answer the question, Dad. 3 months ago, you gave Amanda $50,000 for a house down payment. The same month you told Tyler and me you couldn't help us refinance because money was tight. That was different, my mother interjected. Amanda needed help more. You have Tyler's income. Tyler had just been through layoffs. We explicitly told you that. Lower your voice, my father warned. People are looking. I don't care, I said, though I did lower my voice slightly. I want answers. I want an explanation for why, my entire life, I've been treated as less important, less valuable, less worthy of love and support than my sister. My mother's eyes welled with tears. How could you attack us like this? After everything we've done for you? What exactly have you done for me that compares to what you've done for Amanda? I pushed, trying to stay focused despite her tears. I knew those tears well. They appeared whenever my mother was confronted with something uncomfortable, effectively shutting down conversation. We put you through college, my father stated firmly. You paid for 1 year of community college. You paid for all 4 years at a private university for Amanda. She had better grades. She had the same GPA I did. I have the transcripts right here. I tapped the folder. My father's face was growing increasingly red. I don't know what's gotten into you, Rose. You've always been our problem child, always making mountains out of molehills. Problem child? Is that how you see me? Because I don't passively accept being treated as second class in my own family? That's enough, my father said, his voice deadly quiet. I will not sit here and be accused of. Whatever it is you're implying, we love both our daughters equally. Period. Actions speak louder than words, I countered, feeling years of suppressed hurt bubbling to the surface. And your actions tell a very different story. What do you want from us, Rose? My mother asked, dabbing at her eyes with a napkin. An apology? Money? What will make this unpleasantness go away? I want acknowledgement. I want you to see what you've been doing to me, what you're now doing to Logan. I want it to stop. My father stood up abruptly. This conversation is over. When you've calmed down and are ready to be reasonable, give us a call. Until then, I suggest you do some serious thinking about your accusations and their consequences. What consequences? I asked, my voice shaking. Family relationships can be damaged beyond repair, Rose. Think about that before you continue down this path. My mother stood as well, still sniffling. We love you, Rose. But this behavior, it's concerning. Perhaps you should talk to someone professional. They left without ordering food, my father throwing down $40 on the table for a meal no one ate. I sat alone, my carefully prepared evidence untouched, feeling hollow and invalidated. I was still sitting there, staring into space, when my phone buzzed with a text from Amanda. What's going on? Mom and Dad just called saying you had some kind of breakdown at lunch. They said you're making outrageous accusations against the family. Are you okay? Before I could even reply, more messages started coming in. From Aunt Judy. Concerned about you, honey. Your mom says you're having a hard time. Call if you need to talk. From Uncle Frank. Family is family, kiddo. Whatever's eating you, don't let it come between you and your parents. The story was already spreading, but not my version. My parents had immediately launched a counter narrative, painting me as unstable and unreasonable, and everyone was believing them. I gathered my evidence folder, paid for my untouched water, and walked out to my car. Once inside, I finally let the tears come. I had prepared for denial, for anger, even for guilt, tripping, but I hadn't prepared for my entire family to be turned against me within minutes. As I drove home, I wondered if I'd made a terrible mistake. If by trying to heal old wounds, I'd only succeeded in creating fresh ones. The next few weeks were a blur of uncomfortable family dynamics. My parents maintained a cool distance, responding to my texts with one-word answers, while telling everyone else I was going through a phase or having emotional difficulties. Amanda kept reaching out with concerned messages that felt more like wellness checks than genuine support. Tyler was my rock during this time, reassuring me that I wasn't overreacting, that my feelings and observations were valid. But even his steadfast support couldn't protect me from the growing sense of isolation, as extended family members either avoided me or treated me with the careful concern one might show a potentially unstable person. The worst part was watching the effect on Logan. Kids are perceptive, and he knew something was wrong. He became quieter, more withdrawn. His teacher called one afternoon to say he'd gotten into an argument with another student who'd been teasing him. "This isn't like Logan," she said. "Is everything okay at home?" The question hit me hard. Was I damaging my son by pursuing this crusade against my parents? Was I selfishly putting my need for validation above his need for stability? After the call, I sat at our kitchen table, my head in my hands, when Tyler came home from work early. "The school called you too?" I asked. He nodded, sitting beside me. The counselor suggested we might want to come in for a meeting. The school counselor, Miss Winters, was a compassionate woman in her 50s who listened carefully as we explained the situation without directly mentioning my parents' favoritism. "Logan seems to be carrying a heavy emotional burden," she observed. "He told me he feels like he's not good enough." Those are troubling words from a 10-year-old. My heart sank. Not good enough. Exactly how I felt at his age. "Have you considered family therapy?" Miss Winters suggested. "Not just for Logan, but for all of you? Sometimes these patterns run deep." That night, after researching local family therapists, I found myself typing family favoritism into my search bar. What came up was a rabbit hole of information about toxic family dynamics, scapegoating, golden child syndrome, and emotional neglect. I read article after article, tears streaming down my face as I recognized my family in the clinical descriptions. One article led me to an online support group for adult children of emotionally abusive parents. I created an account and began reading through the posts. Story after story echoed my experiences. The denial, the gaslighting, the triangulation of family members against each other. I wrote my own post, detailing the barbecue incident and the confrontation that followed. The responses came quickly. "You're describing a classic scapegoat divided by golden child dynamic. Your parents have made you the identified patient in the family system. The fact that they immediately mobilized the extended family against you is textbook triangulation." I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. What I was experiencing had names, patterns, and recognition from people who'd lived through similar situations. Armed with this new understanding, I made an appointment with a therapist specializing in family trauma. Dr. Marissa Jensen listened attentively during our first session as I poured out 30 years of stored pain. "What you're describing," she said when I finished, "sounds like a family system with narcissistic dynamics. In these systems, there's often a golden child who can do no wrong, and a scapegoat who can do no right." "That's exactly it," I said, feeling a rush of validation. "Amanda was always the golden child, and you were the scapegoat." Dr. Jensen nodded. "But here's the important thing to understand, Rose. Neither role is healthy. The golden child is often prevented from developing true independence or authentic identity. They become extensions of the narcissistic parent's ego. I'd never thought about it that way before. So Amanda was hurt by this too? Just differently? Often, yes. The golden child receives conditional love based on performance and meeting parents' expectations. The scapegoat receives conditional love based on accepting blame and staying in their assigned role. Both children are denied unconditional love. Over the next few sessions, Dr. Jensen helped me see the larger patterns at work in my family. How my father's controlling behavior and my mother's emotional manipulation had shaped both Amanda and me. How they'd cultivated competition between us from an early age. The real question now, Dr. Jensen said during our 4th session, is how to break the cycle for Logan. How do you prevent him from internalizing the message that he's somehow less worthy than his cousin? Tyler and I decided Logan should also see a therapist. We found a child psychologist who specialized in building self-esteem and processing family dynamics. After just a few sessions, Logan began opening up about his feelings. "Emma always gets more attention from Grandma and Grandpa," he told us one night after therapy. "I try really hard to make them like me, but nothing works." My heart broke hearing him articulate the exact struggle I'd faced for decades. "It's not about you, buddy," Tyler assured him, pulling him into a hug. "Some adults just aren't good at showing love equally. But your mom and I love you more than anything in the world." As I watched them, I remembered something I'd written in a journal when I was 14. "Sometimes I feel invisible at home. Like no matter what I do, no one really sees me." The entry was buried in a box in our storage room. I dug it out that night and read through pages of adolescent observations that were remarkably insightful about the family dynamics I was only now coming to understand as an adult. One night, while scanning old family photos for my therapy work, I discovered something striking. In virtually every family picture, Amanda was front and center, often physically positioned between our parents. I was consistently on the periphery, sometimes partly cut off at the edge of the frame. The visual evidence of my peripheral status in the family was undeniable. I showed these photos to Dr. Jensen at our next session. "This is very telling," she said. "Family photos often reveal unconscious dynamics. The real question now is, what do you want to do with this understanding?" "I want to heal," I said immediately. "I want Logan to have a better experience than I did. But I don't know if that's possible without my parents acknowledging their role." "And if they never do?" Dr. Jensen asked gently. The question hung in the air between us. What if my parents never recognized the pain they'd caused? What if they continued treating Logan as less important than Emma? Could I protect him without cutting off his relationship with his grandparents entirely? "I don't know," I admitted. "Perhaps there's someone else in the family who might see what you see," Dr. Jensen suggested. "Sometimes having even one ally can shift the entire family system." Amanda's face flashed in my mind. My sister, the golden child. Would she ever be able to recognize her privileged position in the family? Or was she too invested in maintaining the status quo? There was only one way to find out. Despite our complicated history, I needed to talk to my sister. I texted Amanda the next day. "Can we meet for coffee? Just us. It's important." Her reply came quickly. "Is everything okay? Mom and Dad are really worried about you." "I'm fine. I just think we need to talk, sister to sister." We arranged to meet at a small cafe, halfway between our homes. I arrived early, claiming a corner table, and ordering a latte to calm my nerves. When Amanda walked in, I was struck by how perfectly put together she always looked. Designer jeans, cashmere sweater, not a hair out of place. The golden child, literally gleaming. "Rose," she said, giving me a quick hug before sitting down. "You look tired." "Thanks," I replied dryly. "It's been a rough few weeks." Amanda ordered an herbal tea and then turned to me with concern etched on her face. "Mom and Dad think you're having some kind of breakdown. They said you accused them of playing favorites or something? What do you think, Amanda? Do they play favorites?" She shifted uncomfortably. "They love us both." "That's not what I asked." The server brought Amanda's tea, creating a momentary pause in our conversation. I watched as she carefully added honey, stirred precisely 3 times, and blotted a non-existent spill with her napkin. "Always perfect, always careful. Look, I continued, I'm not here to attack you or make you feel bad, but I need to know if you've ever noticed how differently we're treated. How differently Logan and Emma are treated. Amanda stared into her tea. What happened at the barbecue with the steak? That wasn't great. It wasn't much, but it was something. An acknowledgement. And the vacation to Florida? Were you going to tell me about that? Her eyes widened. How did you know about that? I overheard Mom and Dad talking. They explicitly decided not to invite us. Amanda had the grace to look embarrassed. I told them they should include you. They said something about Tyler's work schedule, and Logan being difficult on trips. Logan has never been difficult on trips. We took him to Yellowstone last year, and he was amazing, patient during the long drives, excited about every new thing. I didn't know that, Amanda admitted. There's a lot you don't know, I said, then took a deep breath. Amanda, I've been seeing a therapist who specializes in family dynamics. She explained something called the golden child divided by scapegoat dynamic. Have you ever heard of it? Amanda shook her head. It's when parents, particularly those with narcissistic tendencies, designate one child as perfect and the other as problematic. The golden child can do no wrong. The scapegoat can do no right. And you think, I know. You were the golden child. I was the scapegoat. And now, Emma is the golden child. And Logan is the scapegoat. Amanda started to protest, but I held up my hand. Before you deny it, let me show you something. I pulled out my phone and opened a photo album I'd created. These are some family pictures I've been looking through. Notice anything? She scrolled through the images, her expression gradually shifting from defensive to troubled. I'm always in the middle. And I'm always on the edge. Sometimes literally cropped out. That could be coincidence. 50 photos over 20 years isn't coincidence, Amanda. And it's not just photos. I showed her my documented instances of financial disparity, attention disparity, and emotional support disparity. The thing is, I continued, being the golden child isn't actually good for you either. My therapist explained that golden children often struggle with perfectionism, anxiety, and fear of failure. They learn that love is conditional on performance and pleasing the parents. Does any of that sound familiar? Amanda's eyes filled with tears. I've been on anti-anxiety medication since college. I have panic attacks before family gatherings, terrified I'll disappoint Mom and Dad. This was news to me. My perfect sister, secretly struggling. You never told me. You always seemed to have it together in a different way. You didn't care as much about pleasing them. I envied that about you. I nearly choked on my coffee. You envied me? I was the family disappointment. You were free in a way I never was. When you married Tyler, you chose him because you loved him. When I married Jack, I chose him because he checked all the boxes Mom and Dad had for a son-in-law. We stared at each other across the table, decades of misunderstanding and competition starting to melt away. Do you love Jack? I asked softly. Amanda dabbed at her eyes. I'm learning to. He's a good man. But we got married because it was time, not because we couldn't live without each other. Not like you and Tyler. For the next hour, Amanda and I compared notes on our childhoods, seeing familiar events through new lenses. The Christmas, she got a car, while I got a sweater. The time I wasn't invited to her graduation dinner, because the reservation was limited. The subtle ways our parents had always pitted us against each other. They triangulated us, I explained, using one of the terms I'd learned. They'd tell me one thing about you, tell you another thing about me. They kept us from forming a united front. Like when Mom told me you didn't want me as a bridesmaid because you were jealous I'd look better than you in the photos? Amanda asked. What? I begged you to be my bridesmaid. Mom told me you were too busy with your new job to participate. Amanda's jaw dropped. That's why I was so cold at your wedding. I thought you had deliberately excluded me. And that's why I was hurt that you seemed so disinterested. I thought you were too important for my little wedding. We both sat in stunned silence, processing the decades of manipulation. What do we do now? Amanda finally asked. First, we stop letting them come between us. Second, we present a united front about how Emma and Logan are treated. No more favoritism. Amanda nodded slowly. Thanksgiving is next week at their house. That could be our chance. As we prepared to leave, an elderly woman approached our table. It took me a moment to recognize my grandmother Eleanor, my father's mother, whom we saw only at major holidays. "I hope you don't mind," she said. I was having lunch over there and recognized my granddaughters. "I couldn't help overhearing some of your conversation." Amanda and I exchanged panicked glances, wondering how much she'd heard. "Grandma, we were just catching up," Amanda started. "No, you weren't," Grandma Eleanor said firmly. "You were finally being honest with each other about Robert and Diane's behavior." My father's name sounded strange coming from her lips. I'd almost forgotten he had a first name, that he was someone's son. "May I?" she asked, gesturing to our table. We nodded, and she sat down with surprising agility for a woman in her 80s. "What you described, Rose, this golden child and scapegoat business, it didn't start with you two. Robert was my golden child. His brother James was my scapegoat. This was family history I'd never heard before. Uncle James had died before I was born. I didn't see it then," Grandma Eleanor continued. "I thought I was just recognizing Robert's special talents. It wasn't until James cut contact with us in his 30s that I realized what I'd done. By then, the damage was set. Robert expected to be the center of attention, expected his accomplishments to be celebrated, while others were minimized. Have you ever talked to Dad about this?" I asked. "Many times. He dismisses it. Says James was just jealous of his success. Says I'm being dramatic." She reached into her handbag and pulled out a small notebook. "I've been documenting the way he and Diane treat you girls, and now your children, for years. I've been waiting for one of you to notice." Amanda and I looked at each other, stunned. We'd had an ally all along, silently watching, waiting for us to wake up. "I'm not getting any younger," Grandma Eleanor said. "And I'm tired of watching history repeat itself. If you girls are finally ready to address this, I want to help." For the first time since the barbecue, I felt a surge of hope. With Amanda and Grandma Eleanor on my side, maybe, just maybe, things could change. Not just for me, but for Logan and all the future generations of our family. Thanksgiving arrived with the usual mix of autumn chill and holiday anticipation. As we pulled into my parents' driveway, I felt a strange calm. No matter what happened today, I wasn't alone anymore. "You okay?" Tyler asked, squeezing my hand. "Better than okay," I replied. "I have a plan." Logan sat up in the back seat. "Are Emma and Aunt Amanda already here?" "Probably," I said. "And great, Grandma Eleanor too." We'd arranged everything carefully. Amanda, Jack, and Emma had arrived early to help with preparations. Grandma Eleanor had insisted on being picked up from her retirement community rather than having my father drive to get her. She wanted to enter the situation with her own transportation and exit strategy. The house was filled with the familiar smells of turkey, stuffing, and my mother's signature pumpkin pie. Amanda greeted us at the door with meaningful eye contact and a squeeze of my arm. "Rose, Tyler, Logan. So glad you made it," she said, loudly enough for our parents to hear. My mother emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. "There you are." We were beginning to wonder. No greeting, just a veiled criticism of our punctuality, though we were exactly on time. "Happy Thanksgiving, Mom," I said, giving her a hug that she returned stiffly. My father was in his usual spot in the living room recliner, watching football. He nodded in acknowledgement but didn't get up. "Logan, Emma is setting the kids' table in the sunroom," my mother said, essentially dismissing my son before he'd even taken off his coat. "Actually," I said calmly, "we thought it would be nice for the kids to eat with us at the main table this year. They're old enough now." "There's not enough room," my mother protested. "Sure there is," Grandma Eleanor chimed in from the dining room doorway. "I already added 2 place settings." My mother's smile tightened. But she didn't argue with her mother-in-law. The next hour proceeded with the careful choreography of holiday preparations. Amanda and I stayed close, each noticing the small ways our parents tried to separate us or elevate her over me. The way my mother asked Amanda to arrange the centerpiece because she had such a good eye while asking me to just fill water glasses. The way my father engaged Tyler in conversation about sports while ignoring me completely. Logan and Emma played together in the living room. I watched carefully, noting how my father offered Emma the remote to change channels but suggested Logan find something else to do when he asked a question about the football game. When it was time to carve the turkey, my father made a show of setting aside the choicest pieces for Emma, since she loves white meat. Logan, I knew, also preferred white meat, but no one had ever bothered to ask him. Logan likes white meat too, I said. My voice pleasant but firm. Well, there's plenty for everyone, my mother replied dismissively. As we all took our seats, I noticed that, despite Grandma Eleanor's additions to the table, Logan's chair was partially blocked by the corner of the china cabinet. He would have to squeeze in uncomfortably. Let's rearrange a bit, I suggested, moving chairs to ensure both children had equal space. Throughout the meal, Amanda and I maintained our united front. When my mother praised Emma's recent dance recital, Amanda smoothly added, "And Logan's science project was incredible too, wasn't it, Rose?" When my father offered seconds to Emma, but passed the serving dishes right over Logan, I intercepted them. Logan would love some more stuffing, Dad. Each time, our parents looked momentarily confused, their usual dynamic disrupted by our refusal to play our assigned roles. The real test came when dessert was served. My mother brought out 2 pies, one a perfect pumpkin and one an obviously store-bought apple. "Emma, I made your favorite," my mother cooed, presenting the pumpkin pie. "Actually, Grandma, I like apple better," Emma said, clearly following a script Amanda had prepared with her. "And Logan loves pumpkin, don't you, buddy?" I added. My mother looked between the children, flustered. "Well, I just thought." "You thought Emma would want pumpkin because that's what you've always given her," Amanda finished. "But maybe it's time we all started asking what people actually want, rather than assuming." A heavy silence fell over the table. My father cleared his throat. "What's gotten into you two? You're making a big deal out of pie." "It's not about the pie, Dad," I said calmly. "It's about a pattern of behavior. One that Amanda and I have discussed at length." "Oh, so now you've got your sister involved in your little crusade," my father said dismissively. "Amanda, don't let Rose drag you into her issues." "They're not just Rose's issues," Amanda replied, her voice steady despite the slight tremble in her hands. "I've seen it too. The way you favor me over Rose. The way you favor Emma over Logan. It's not fair, and it's not right." My mother's eyes filled with tears, right on cue. "How can you both attack us like this? On Thanksgiving? Of all days?" "We're not attacking you, Mom," I said. "We're asking you to recognize a pattern that's been hurting our family for generations." "Generations?" my father scoffed. "Now you're being dramatic." "She's not being dramatic, Robert," Grandma Eleanor interjected. "She's being accurate. The same way I favored you over James, you favor Amanda over Rose. And now Emma over Logan. It stops here, or you'll lose your children, just like I lost James." My father's face flushed red. "Mother, stay out of this." "I've stayed out of it for too long," Grandma Eleanor replied. "Watched too many Christmas mornings where Amanda's pile of presents dwarfed Rose's. Listened to too many dinner conversations where you interrupted Rose to praise Amanda. Seen too many photos where Rose is literally pushed to the edge of the frame. I have documented it all." "Documented?" My mother looked alarmed. "What do you mean?" "She means this," I said, pulling out my phone where I'd compiled all our evidence. My original documentation, Amanda's additions, and Grandma Eleanor's years of observations. 3 generations of witnesses to the same pattern. "This is ridiculous," my father blustered. "You're all conspiring against us now?" "No, Dad," Amanda said softly. "We're trying to heal our family. I don't want Emma growing up thinking she's better than Logan. I don't want Logan growing up thinking he's less than. And I don't want to lose my sister because you and Mom couldn't treat us equally. If you push this," my father threatened, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper, "you should know there will be consequences. Financial consequences. I'm not afraid to rewrite my will. The old threat, the ultimate control mechanism." But this time, it fell flat. "Dad, we're not doing this for your money," I said. We're doing this for our children. For ourselves. And if you use your will as a weapon, Amanda added, all you'll do is prove our point about conditional love. My mother was openly crying now, but no one rushed to comfort her as they usually would. Her tears had lost their power to derail the conversation. I think, Tyler said, speaking up for the first time, that we all need to consider what kind of family we want to be going forward. Rose and I have been in therapy, and Logan has too. We're learning healthier ways to communicate and support each other. We'd welcome you both being part of that journey. Therapy? My father practically spat the word. There's nothing wrong with this family that needs therapy. Robert, Grandma Eleanor said sharply. That's exactly what you said when I suggested you talk to someone after James left. And now you haven't spoken to your brother in 30 years. A heavy silence fell over the table. The children had long since abandoned their desserts and retreated to the living room, sensing the adult tension. I never meant to hurt anyone, my mother finally said, her voice small. I just thought. Amanda needed more encouragement. Rose was always so independent. I was independent because I had to be, I replied gently. Because I learned early that I couldn't count on you the way Amanda could. And I developed crippling anxiety trying to maintain the perfect image you expected of me, Amanda added. Neither approach was healthy, Mom. My father stood up abruptly. I think it's time for everyone to leave. This conversation is over. No, Dad, I said, standing as well. This conversation is just beginning. You can choose to be part of it or not, but Amanda and I are done pretending. We're done competing. We're done letting you pit us against each other. And we're absolutely done letting you treat our children the way you treated us. What your father means, my mother interjected, trying to smooth things over, is that we all need time to process. This is a lot to take in at once. For once, I recognized her attempt at peacekeeping for what it was. A delay tactic to avoid real change. Take all the time you need, I said. But understand that things will be different moving forward. Equal treatment for both of us. And both of our children is non-negotiable. We gathered our things and prepared to leave, the Thanksgiving meal abandoned half, eaten on the table. As we headed for the door, Logan looked confused. Are we going already? We didn't even play the thankful game. The thankful game was a family tradition where everyone shared what they were grateful for that year. In all the tension, we'd skipped it entirely. You know what, I said, kneeling down to his level. Let's play it in the car on the way home, just our family. As we were leaving, my Aunt Judy approached, having witnessed much of the confrontation. Rose, can I talk to you for a moment? I braced myself for criticism, but instead, she looked contrite. I need to tell you something. For years, your mother has been telling me you don't want a close relationship with me because you find me annoying. But she's been telling you I'm too busy to spend time with you, hasn't she? I nodded, stunned. She's been doing the same thing with all the aunts and uncles. Telling each of us different stories about why you're distant. I'm starting to think it was all manipulation. One by one, other family members approached with similar revelations. Uncle Steve had been told I thought his political views were offensive. Cousin Beth had been told I was jealous of her career success. All lies designed to isolate me from potential allies. As we finally drove away, I felt both drained and strangely liberated. The confrontation hadn't gone as planned. My parents hadn't had a sudden epiphany or offered heartfelt apologies. But something significant had shifted. The truth was out in the open, witnessed by the extended family. And most importantly, Amanda and I were united at last. Did I do good, Mom? Logan asked from the back seat, saying I like pumpkin pie. I turned to look at him, this beautiful, sensitive child who had become the unwitting catalyst for generational healing. You did perfectly, buddy. You stood up for yourself. That's all anyone can ever ask. As Tyler drove us home through the darkening November evening, I realized the heaviest burden I'd carried wasn't my parents' favoritism itself, but the loneliness of bearing it in silence. That burden, at least, was finally lifted. 6 months after the Thanksgiving confrontation, our family landscape had transformed in ways I never could have predicted. Not all of it was easy, but all of it was necessary. My parents initially retreated into defensive silence, refusing to acknowledge the issues we'd raised. but the wall of family secrecy had been irreparably breached. Extended family members, now aware of the dynamics, began reaching out to me directly instead of through my parents. Aunt Judy invited Logan and me for a special weekend visit. Uncle Steve made a point of calling regularly to check in. The most surprising development came from my mother. 3 weeks after Thanksgiving, she showed up at our door alone, looking uncharacteristically vulnerable. "I've been thinking about what you said," she admitted, sitting stiffly on our living room couch. "About patterns repeating." It wasn't an apology, but it was an opening. I invited her to join us for one of Logan's therapy sessions, framing it as an opportunity to understand him better rather than addressing her own behavior. To my surprise, she agreed. Dr. Kelly, Logan's therapist, skillfully created a safe space for Logan to express his feelings about his relationship with his grandparents. Hearing her grandson say he felt invisible around her seemed to crack something in my mother's carefully constructed worldview. "I never wanted you to feel that way," she told him, tears in her eyes. "Either of you," she added, glancing at me. My father proved more resistant to change. When confronted with evidence of his behavior, he deflected, denied, or became angry. His relationship with Amanda, previously characterized by mutual admiration, grew strained as she refused to play the golden child role any longer. "He actually hung up on me," Amanda reported after suggesting family therapy. "Said I was choosing you over them, as if it's some kind of competition." "Isn't that exactly the problem?" I replied. "Everything's always been a competition in their eyes." Amanda and I continued our own healing journey, gradually rebuilding the sisterhood that had been undermined for decades. We started a tradition of Sunday dinners, alternating between our homes, where Emma and Logan could develop a genuine cousin relationship free from comparative judgment. "They actually like each other when no one's pitting them against each other," Amanda observed one evening as we watched the kids playing video games together, cheering each other on rather than competing. "Imagine that," I replied with a smile. Grandma Eleanor became a regular at these gatherings, delighting in the opportunity to develop relationships with her great-grandchildren on equal terms. She shared stories about my father and Uncle James as children, helping us understand how the pattern of favoritism had been established in the previous generation. "Robert was always so much like his father," she explained. "Competitive, achievement-oriented. James was gentler, more creative. My husband didn't know what to do with a boy who preferred art to sports. So he focused on Robert, and I let it happen." "Have you ever reconnected with Uncle James?" I asked. "No," she said sadly. "I tried, years ago, but too much damage had been done. That's why I'm so determined to help you girls break the cycle now, before it's too late." By the time spring arrived, I felt ready to try hosting a family gathering at our house. Not just Amanda and Grandma Eleanor, but my parents as well. A chance to establish new patterns on our own territory. "Are you sure about this?" Tyler asked as we sent the invitations. "No," I admitted. "But I think it's necessary, for Logan, for all of us." To my surprise, both my parents accepted. The gathering was set for a Saturday in May, exactly 1 year after the fateful barbecue that had started it all. When the day arrived, I felt a strange sense of symmetry. Once again, we would be gathering around food in a backyard. But this time, the power dynamics would be fundamentally different. My mother arrived first, bringing a salad and an uncharacteristic humility. My father followed shortly after, stiff but civil. Amanda, Jack, and Emma came bearing dessert, while Grandma Eleanor contributed her famous dinner rolls and a lifetime of wisdom. As everyone settled into our backyard, I noticed my father watching Tyler at the grill. Tyler had been taking cooking classes, specifically focusing on grilling techniques. He'd become quite skilled, a fact my father seemed to register with surprise. "Need any help over there?" my father asked, approaching the grill. "Sure," Tyler replied easily. "Logan's been my assistant chef, but he could use a break. Want to learn our special seasoning technique?" I watched as my father awkwardly positioned himself beside Tyler, accepting instruction from his son-in-law. It was a small thing, but significant. My father, accepting a role other than expert or authority figure. Meanwhile, Logan was showing Emma his new telescope, explaining the constellations he'd been learning about. My mother hovered nearby, visibly making an effort to engage with both children equally. "That sounds fascinating, Logan," she said when he described the Pleiades cluster. "Maybe you could show me later when it gets dark?" Logan's face lit up with surprise and pleasure. "Sure, Grandma. And Emma too, if she wants." "I want to see too," Emma agreed. "Logan knows all the cool space stuff." Amanda caught my eye across the yard, both of us noticing the natural, easy interaction between the children when not influenced by adult prejudices. When it came time to serve the food, Tyler made a point of calling all the children to receive their perfectly grilled steaks first. Logan and Emma, but also Amanda's new baby boy James, named after our estranged uncle in a gesture of family healing. As we gathered around the table, I noticed my father examining his steak with appreciation. "This is perfectly done, Tyler. You've got a real talent here." "Thanks," Tyler replied. But the secret ingredient was Logan's idea. "He's got a natural palate." My father glanced at Logan with what looked like genuine reassessment. "Is that right? What was your secret ingredient, young man?" "Brown sugar in the rub," Logan said proudly. "It helps make the crust caramelized." "Smart thinking." My father nodded. "My dad taught me about grilling, but we never tried that." "Maybe next time I could show you?" Logan offered tentatively. A flash of emotion crossed my father's face. Was it regret? Recognition? Whatever it was, he masked it quickly, but not before I caught it. "I'd like that," he said simply. The meal wasn't perfect. There were moments of tension, old patterns threatening to reassert themselves. But each time, someone gently redirected. Amanda complimented my new landscaping when my mother began comparing our homes. Tyler smoothly changed the subject when my father started interrogating Emma about her grades, while ignoring Logan. As the evening wound down, Grandma Eleanor raised her glass. "I'd like to propose a toast. To new beginnings and broken cycles. To Rose and Amanda, who had the courage to speak truth. And to Robert and Diane, who are learning to listen." My parents shifted uncomfortably but raised their glasses nonetheless. "To family," I added. "The one we were born into, and the one we choose to create." After everyone had gone home, Logan helped me clear the last of the dishes, unusually thoughtful for a 10-year-old approaching bedtime. "Mom," he said as he handed me a serving platter, "is Grandpa going to be nice to me now?" The question broke my heart and steeled my resolve simultaneously. "He's trying, buddy. Some people take longer to learn new ways of being. But you know what's important?" "What?" "That you know your worth doesn't depend on how Grandpa or anyone else treats you. You are amazing exactly as you are." Logan considered this, then nodded. "Like you taught me. We can't control how other people act, only how we respond." "Exactly. And whatever happens with Grandma and Grandpa, you have me and Dad, and Aunt Amanda and Uncle Jack, and Emma and baby James, and great-Grandma Eleanor. You have a whole family of people who see you and value you exactly as you are." Logan wrapped his arms around my waist. "Thanks for fixing things, Mom. For making them see me." I hugged him back, tears stinging my eyes. "Oh, sweetie. Thank you for helping me see that it needed fixing." 1 year later, our family continues to evolve. My parents' progress has been uneven. My mother has made genuine efforts to connect with Logan and treat the grandchildren equally. My father struggles more, falling into old patterns when stressed or challenged. But the important difference is that these behaviors no longer go unaddressed. Amanda and I maintain our united front, gently but firmly pointing out inequities when they arise. We've developed a shorthand between us, a raised eyebrow or subtle nod that says, "I see it too. You're not imagining things." The most profound change has been within myself. The perpetual knot of anxiety I'd carried since childhood has gradually loosened. I no longer question my worth based on my parents' approval. I no longer measure myself against Amanda or anyone else. Last week, we hosted another family barbecue. As Tyler handed perfectly grilled steaks to each family member, I watched Logan's face. There was no tension, no anticipation of disappointment. Just the simple joy of a child surrounded by family, secure in the knowledge that he belongs. The burnt offering from 2 years ago had indeed changed everything. though not in the way anyone could have predicted. It became the catalyst for healing wounds that had festered for generations. It gave me the courage to stand up not just for my son, but for my younger self as well. As I look around at our imperfect but improving family, I realize the most important lesson of all. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give our children is to heal our own childhood wounds. By refusing to accept the role of family scapegoat any longer, I freed not only myself but Logan as well. By speaking truth to power, even when that power was my own parents, I taught him the value of self, advocacy, and authentic relationships. The burnt meat incident wasn't just about favoritism. It was about a child's fundamental need to be seen, valued, and treated with fairness. It was about breaking generational patterns of toxic family dynamics, and most importantly, it was about finding the courage to stand up and say, "This stops with me." Have you ever had to confront unfair treatment in your family? How did you handle it? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that they're not alone in their family struggles. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the most loving thing you can do for your family is to challenge the patterns that hurt you all.